You are your own resistance to goals. Hitler wanted to be an artist, then an architect. Apparently, he found it easier to start World War II than to face a blank canvas. Those who do not learn self-mastery are destined to have masters over them. Resistance is the enemy. Your enemy is your greatest teacher, Dalai Lama. Pretty much anything that is going to significantly improve your life is going to bring resistance. Though we generally like to blame outside forces, it's almost always from within, and will assume any form to confuse you. It has no conscience to screw in you, is always lying, and is always full of shit. Navigate by resistance. The more important a call or action is to our soul's evolution, the more resistance we will feel toward pursuing it. The more scared we are of a pursuit or calling, the more sure we ought to be that we have to do it. Resistance is experienced by fear. The degree of fear determines the level of resistance. Therefore, the more fear we feel about a certain enterprise, the more certain we can be that this enterprise is important to us and the growth of our soul. If it meant nothing to us, we wouldn't care and wouldn't feel anything. Resistance recruits allies. Those who will not govern themselves are condemned to find masters to govern over them. Symptoms: procrastination, unhealthy focus on sex, causing trouble just for attention, self-dramatization, creating soap operas in our lives, criticism of others, self-doubt. If you find yourself criticizing others, it's probably out of resistance, though we can turn procrastination on its head at any moment, just by sitting down and doing our work. Attention is a faux form of fame. It's easy. Ill health is a form of trouble, as is lateness or tattoos. Anything that draws attention through pain-free forms. Cruelty as well. When we know in our heart that we are not living out our realized self, we lash out by criticizing others. Are you paralyzed with fear? Fear is good. Like self-doubt, fear is an indicator. It tells us what we have to do. The more scared we are of a work or calling, the more sure we can be that we have to do it. The more fear we fear over a certain enterprise, the more certain we can be that it's important to us. Rationalization is resistance's right-hand man. It's one thing to lie to yourself. It's a whole other thing to believe it. Rationalization is a series or plausible, rational justifications for why we shouldn't do our work. Because if it was just fear, we might grow embarrassed and do something about it. Rationalization is resistance's way of hiding fear from you, so you don't confront it. We must enact our own internal revolution, a private insurrection inside our own skull. In this uprising, we free ourselves from the tyranny of consumer culture. We overthrow the programming of advertising, movies, TV, and magazines, from which we have been hypnotized from the cradle. We unplug our minds from the grid by realizing we will never cure our restlessness by contributing out disposable income to the bottom line of Bullshit Inc., but by only doing our work. Overcoming resistance is natural. If you need proof, childbirth. The whole concept seems impossible, until you realize it's been happening for millions of years. For the professional, the stakes are high and real. This is about survival. This is about providing for our family. This is about eating. We don't just play this game of life for money. The more you love your art calling enterprise, the more important its accomplishment is to the evolution of your soul. The more you will fear it, and the more resistance you will experience when facing it. The amateur over-identifies with his avocation. He defines himself by it. He is an author, musician, playwright. Resistance loves this. He knows that the amateur composer will never write his play, because he is over-invested in its success, and over-terrified by its failure. It paralyzes him. The more important an accomplishment is to the evolution of your soul, the more you will fear it, and the more resistance you will see. The payoff can't just be for money, because it might not come. Resistance yields to ourselves as a professional. A professional is someone who plays for keeps, is there full-time, 7 days per week. Patient. You cannot go balls out all of the time. He is the tortoise and not the hare. Seeks order. The principle of organization is built into nature. Chaos itself is self-organizing. When we set out to create something, we take the chaos of our world and thoughts and put them in order. Someone who masters the how. Leave the why to the gods. Don't be preoccupied by the mystery. Do the work. Plays it as it lies. Conducts his business in the real world. There is no such thing as a fear-free warrior. There is no such thing as luck. You have to adapt. Prepared at a deeper level to confront his own self-sabotage. Is mentally ready to absorb blows and deliver them. For the field to alter daily and just deal with it. Accept no excuses. Do the work. Has style, though does not use it as a means to bring attention to himself. Someone who respects his craft and dedicates himself to it. Apprentices himself to those before him. Masters his technique. By toiling at the front door of technique, it allows genius to come into the back. Someone who will ask for help when necessary, even enjoy it, removes herself from her instrument. They don't identify themselves with their instrument. They can look at it objectively and with impunity, in touch with their consciousness and will, not the matter in which their consciousness and will impacts their world. Madonna does not walk around the house in comb bras. Madonna employs Madonna. Will not take the results personally. Resistance uses the fear of rejection against us to paralyze us. The professional loves her work and is invested in it wholeheartedly, though she does not forget that the work is not H-E-R. The her contains many thoughts. The next idea is already percolating, and the next and the next. Self-validates. Give an ear to criticism, just not a heart to it. Endures adversity. Your core is bulletproof. Keeps an eye on the donut and not the hole. Recognizes envy-riddled criticism as a compliment. Cannot let the actions of others define his reality. Tomorrow the critic is gone, but tomorrow the blank page will be there. Reinvents himself, recognized by other professionals. The envy of others is the highest compliment. Author William Somerset Maugham, when asked if he writes on a schedule, "I only write when struck my inspiration. Fortunately, it strikes every morning at 9 sharp." That's a pro. Why does resistance yield to turning pro? Because resistance is a bully. Resistance has the power of its own. Its only power is from our fear of it. There is no mystery to turning pro. We make up our mind to do it. It's as simple as that. Beyond resistance, the first duty is to sacrifice to the gods and pray that they grant you the thoughts, words, and deeds likely to render your command most pleasing to the gods, and to bring yourself, your friends, and your fullest measure of glory and advantage. Angels in the abstract, muses, talent, energy, and everything. The most important thing to art is work, sitting down every day and trying. Because when we sit down every day and keep grinding, something mysterious happens. A process is set into motion where inevitably, infallibly, heaven comes to our aid. Unseen forces enlist in our cause. Serendipity reinforces our purpose. Real artists know that when we sit down and work every day, power concentrates around us. The muse takes note of our dedication and approves. We have earned favor in her sight. We are like a magnetized rod that attracts iron filing of ideas and insights create. We are facing the fire-breathing dragons of our soul, who we must outfight and outwit to reach the treasure of ourself and potential, and to release the maiden who is God's plan and destiny for ourselves, and the answer to why we were put on this planet. If resistance has a seat in hell, creation has a seat in heaven. Invoking the muse. The muse is the daughter of Zeus and memory. Those are good credentials. So show respect to this unseen power who can make or break you. Artists have invoked them for as long as time, from a source that we cannot see, eat, touch, or smell. When invoking the muse, we are calling on a higher plane of reality. Divine intercession. The moment that one definitely commits one's elves, then providence moves too. All sorts of things happen to make things happen that otherwise would not have occurred. A whole stream of events conspire to provide material assistance come to reality. Boldness has genius. Begin it now. When we make a beginning, we get out of our own way and allow the angels to come in and do their job. They can speak to us now, and it makes God happy. It opens a portal into time. And we are it. When we commit to this, some voice magically pipes up in our head to make it come true. That magically conspires in our favor. But what does this? Is it angels? Is it muses? It is the unconscious, the self. Whatever it is, it's a lot smarter than ourselves. It goes to work all by itself. It enjoys it. Chaos itself is self-organizing. Out of the primordial disorder, stars find their orbit. The same principle kicks in when we set out to connect with the muse, the ego, and the self. Angels make their home in the self. Resistance has its seat in the ego. And there is a constant fight between the two. The self wants to create and evolve. The ego fears change and wants status quo. The ego is the part of the psyche that believes in the material world. The ego's job is to take care of business in the real world. Believes death is real, and our existence is defined by our physical lifetime. Time and space are real. Everything is a then be, then see. Believes every person is different and unique. Believes the predominant impulse in life is self-preservation, and we should fear everything. Believes we need children and there is no God. Nothing exists beyond the physical. The self believes death is an illusion. Time and space are illusions. Don't apply to dreams and visions. Those are on different planes simultaneously. All beings are one. If I hurt you, then I hurt myself. The primary emotion is love. God is all there is. Everything is God in one form or another. Infinite planes of reality exist in the spirit of God, our deepest being, ever growing and ever evolving, speaks to the future, pulls us toward beauty and art. The self propels life upward. The self is incapable of falsehood. The self is ever growing and ever evolving. The ego doesn't want us to evolve, so it hates the self, because the ego runs the show right now. The ego hates the creator, as it kills the ego, so it summons resistance. Resistance feeds on fear. We fear discovering that we are more than we think we are. We fear that we possess the talent that our still small voice that we think we are. Because if this is true, we become estranged from all we think we know. If we embrace out ideals, we must prove worth, and that scares the hell out of us. Someone who defines himself within a hierarchy or pecking order will 1. Compete against all others in the order to try to improve his station by advancing against those above him, while defending against those below him. 2. Evaluate his happiness according to his rank in the organization. 3. Act toward others according to their rank within the hierarchy, ignoring all other variables. 4. Evaluate his every move by how it impacts others. He will dress on how others think. Say things to make others happy. 5. Think for others. Try to predict what others want so they can deliver. A politician who sees what others want to hear before making a decision. The true artist will not operate for others. They work for the sake of the art. The artist faces outward. When they meet new people, they ask, what can I learn? What can this person do to improve me? We are put here on earth to act as agents of the infinite, to bring forth what is not even thought of. God wants this of us. We must do our work for its own sake, not for fortune or adoration or applause. Turning pro. The difference between an amateur and a professional is in their habits. Amateurs have amateur habits. Professionals have professional habits. When we are living as amateurs, we are running away from our calling, our destiny, the obligation to be our truest and highest selves. Addiction is the evil trend of outcalling to service, to art. That's why addicts are so interesting and so boring at the same time. Because they are called to something new, something unique, something that those watching can't wait to see them bring into manifestation. But they are boring because they never do the work. Just like someone who does to the work to go pro. Stanislavski's 3 questions. 1. Who am I? 2. Why am I here? 3. What do I want? Resistance hates 2 qualities above all else, concentration and depth. Because when we work with concentration and we work deep, we succeed. To become an artist or a pro, you generally have to face the same form of exile. You don't socialize as much. You miss things because you have a passion and a mission. It's more important. Pressfield had a year of no radio, TV, booze, sex to write his first book. The pro tries to reach the upper realm through labor and love. The upper realm, as Plato suggested, is a sphere of perfect love, truth, justice, and beauty. Then the artist pro seeks to call down the magic of this world to create, by labor and luck, the closest to sublime simulation to this realm, and produces the closest thing to peace of mind. Fear is the primary color of the amateur's interior world. The professional is terrified too. The difference is how the amateur is terrified too. The difference is how the amateur acts in the face of the fear. The amateur is a narcissist. They live in their ego. He believes he is himself, and that is why he is terrified. He rates himself relative to others. Too high on his highs, too low on his lows. He believes that he cannot rise unless others fall. Lives by the opinion of others. Worth comes from others. Imprisoned by his ought tos. Paradoxically, that paralyzes him. The amateur fears solitude and silence. Seeks instant gratification. Seeks some sort of permission. The amateur lives in the past, one that probably didn't happen. The amateur will be ready tomorrow. The force that can save the amateur is awareness, particularly self-awareness, plus some empathy. Then to realize that the tribe, the one we worry about judging us, doesn't give a shit. They are too fucked up and self-absorbed to pay attention to us. Before we turn pro, we live a life of fear and resistance. When we turn pro, we stop running from our fears. We turn and face them. The pro knows that every day he will wake up to face the same fears and demons. The difference is that now he won't yield to them. He will master them and continue to master them. In the moment, the epiphany feels like hell. It trashes us. It exposes us and leaves us naked. The essence of epiphanies is the stripping away of self-delusion. We thought we were X. Now we see we are negative X divided by infinity. The delusion must be abandoned and it hurts. What we have gained is the truth. In that moment, we can reconstitute our bullshit or turn pro. This creates shame greater than which we have to turn into will. The professional shows up every day, stays all day, committed for the long haul. The stakes are high and real. Is patient and courageous, will not be distracted, seeks order, acts in face of fear, accepts no excuses, plays it as it lies, dedicates himself to mastering technique, asks for help, is ruthless on himself, does not take failure or success personally, will murder his children if the work is not up to expectations, has compassion for himself. The professional lives in the present, the amateur in the past and the future. You must do the work every day. The muse will find you if you do the work. Don't wait for inspiration. A professional will help others. Amateurs think that if he shares what he possesses with others, he will lose it. The professional will gravitate to helping amateurs who want to be pros. And they will resist being iconized because they know how dangerous it is for the iconizer. When you are a professional, you receive 2 paychecks, a financial one, then another in knowing you are living your gift. The second must sustain you because the first may never come. Your practice needs a sacred place, a time, an intention, intensity, humility. We come to our practice as warriors. As students, you have to take what the defense will give you. On days when resistance is really strong, 1. Take what you can get. Stay patient. The defense may crack later. 2. Play for tomorrow. Maintain composure. We are in it for the long haul. They will crack and you will take it. But sometimes you must play hurt. You can't wait for the ducks to be in a row. When we struggle against resistance, to connect with and create our art, we seek to raise ourselves from the mere mortal level to a higher level of existence. To connect with the muse. To elevate from the ego to the self.